So here's your take-home message. Here's what each and every one of you is going to do. The first meal after you're coming out of an overnight fast, you're going to have between 30 and 45 grams of dietary protein. You cannot go wrong with this. Your middle meal, I don't really care. I mean, I care if it's like Sour Patch Kids or something else, but it can be a low protein dose. It could be 10 grams. It could be 12. It could be 15, 35. The goal is not for muscle protein synthesis at that middle meal. From my perspective, it is about managing hunger. And if you are eating a robust diet, then you can get away with that first and that last meal correctly. That last meal, this is where you sit down with Dr. Sean Baker and you have 45 to 55 grams before you go into that overnight fast to protect skeletal muscle. The evidence can support this. Protein does have an impact on insulin. Look at the bottom of this. So this is an equal amount. Protein's impact on insulin has 20% that the impact glucose does. Protein does stimulate insulin, preformed phase 1 insulin release. Negligible. This is not a reason to not consume dietary protein. To summarize some of the metabolic advantages of dietary protein with reduced carbohydrate intake, it improves body composition, protects skeletal muscle, targets fat loss, increases metabolic rate. People talk a lot about how it increases metabolic rate. It likely increases metabolic rate because of muscle protein synthesis. Enhances satiety. What else can it do? It can reverse metabolic syndrome. It can improve cognitive performance, decrease triglycerides, of course, when carbohydrates are controlled, increase HDL, increase LDL size, decrease fasting blood glucose. You guys get the message. We're going to understand the big picture. How many grams of protein do I need per day? Probably more optimal, 1.6 grams per kg. I don't want anyone going lower than that. I put up here if you're an endurance athlete, strength athlete, but again, 1 gram per pound ideal body weight. Number 2, your grams per meal. You're going to nail it. And you know why you're going to nail it? Because it's so easy. There's a lot of things in life hard. This is not one of them. And finally, you are going to understand the quantity of the dietary protein that you need, the quality of the protein that you are consuming, and how you are distributing.